Bumpy Johnson survived 47 bullets. But when his wife Mayme held a gun to his chest asking, "Can you protect me?" he said no. What he did instead in 72 hours turned a jazz singer into someone the Genovese family called an equal partner. What did Bumpy teach Mayme that made gangsters more afraid of her than him? To understand how it all led here, we go back to where it truly began. The sound of broken glass crunching under boots. That was the first thing Bumpy Johnson heard when he pushed open the door to his Harlem apartment at 11:43 in the evening on February 7, 1949. The second thing was his wife breathing. Fast, shallow, the kind of breathing that comes right before someone pulls a trigger. The third thing was blood. A pool of it spreading across the hardwood floor near the window, dark and fresh, reflecting the streetlights outside. Bumpy's hand went to his waistband where he kept a .45 automatic. His fingers wrapped around the grip. But he didn't draw. Not yet. Because standing in the middle of his living room barefoot, still wearing her rehearsal dress from the club, was Mayme. And she was holding his .38 revolver. But she wasn't pointing it at him. She was pointing it at the corpse behind him. Bumpy turned slowly. The body was sprawled against the wall near the door, a white man, mid-30s, wearing a cheap suit now soaked with blood. Shot twice. Once in the chest, once in the throat. Clean kills. The window above him was shattered glass scattered across the floor. That's how he'd gotten in. Bumpy looked back at Mayme. Her hands were shaking so hard the gun barrel was drawing circles in the air. Tears streamed down her face, but her eyes were wide open, alert. The eyes of someone who'd just crossed a line they could never uncross. "Mayme," Bumpy said quietly, not moving. "Put the gun down." She didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there staring at the corpse like she was waiting for it to get back up. Bumpy took one step forward, slow, careful. That's when he saw what was clutched in the dead man's left hand. A photograph. Bumpy reached down, pried it loose from the stiff fingers, held it up to the light. A little girl, maybe 6 years old. Dark skin, bright eyes, wearing a Sunday dress, standing in front of a white church. North Carolina by the look of it. Bumpy's blood went cold. "Mayme," he said again, his voice harder now. "Whose child is this?" Mayme's voice came out as a whisper, broken, desperate. "Mine." The room went silent, except for the sound of Harlem traffic outside and Mayme's shaky breathing. Bumpy stared at the photograph. He'd known Mayme for 8 months, loved her for 6, lived with her for 3, and she'd never once mentioned a daughter. "Where is she?" Bumpy asked. "With my mother, Greensboro. Been there since she was 2. Mayme's voice cracked. "I came to New York to sing, to make money, to give her a better life than I had. I was going to bring her up when things were stable, when I was safe. And now," Mayme looked at him, and Bumpy saw something in her eyes he'd never seen before. Not fear. Fury. "They know about her," Mayme whispered. "This man had her picture, had her address, had her school schedule written on a piece of paper in his pocket. I found it before you got here." Bumpy felt rage building in his chest, cold and murderous. "Who sent him?" "I don't know. He broke in through the window an hour ago. Thought I was alone. Thought I'd be easy." Mayme's laugh was bitter, broken. "I shot him with the gun you gave me, the one you taught me to use, and then I searched his pockets." She walked to the table, picked up a folded piece of paper, with shaking hands handed it to Bumpy. Bumpy unfolded it. Written in neat block letters was an address in Greensboro, the name of a school, and a schedule. 7 in the morning drop-off. 3 in the afternoon pickup. Tuesday and Thursday piano lessons at the church. Saturday grocery shopping with grandmother. Someone had been watching Mayme's daughter for weeks. At the bottom of the paper, one sentence: "Make the mother cooperate or the girl disappears." Bumpy crumpled the paper in his fist. Cooperate with what? I don't know, Mayme said. He didn't get a chance to tell me. He came through that window with a gun, said I was coming with him. Said if I screamed, if I fought someone in North Carolina, would make sure I never saw my daughter again. So I shot him. Bumpy looked at the corpse again, seeing it differently now. This wasn't a robbery. This was a kidnapping, and whoever sent this man knew exactly how to hurt Mayme. They'll send more, Mayme whispered. If he doesn't come back, they'll know I killed him. They'll go straight to Greensboro. They'll take her. Bumpy walked to Mayme gently, took the gun from her hands, set it on the table. Then he pulled her into his arms, felt her collapse against him, her whole body shaking. Can you protect me? Mayme asked, her voice muffled against his chest. 4 words, but they carried the weight of everything. The dead man on the floor, the daughter in North Carolina, the life Mayme had been trying to build now crumbling around her. And Bumpy Johnson, the most dangerous man in Harlem, the man who'd survived 47 close calls with death, looked down at the woman he loved and realized something terrifying. He didn't know if he could. The question hung in the air between them like smoke. But to understand why that question terrified him, you need to understand who Bumpy Johnson was. You need to understand the 47 times he'd heard a gun being cocked. Bumpy was 16 years old the first time someone tried to kill him. South Carolina, 1922. He'd just arrived in Harlem running from a murder charge down south. 3 white cops found him in an alley off Lenox Avenue at 2 in the morning, and they decided a black kid from South Carolina didn't deserve a trial. They shot at him 7 times. The first shot went wide, hit a brick wall 2 inches from Bumpy's head. Bumpy didn't freeze, didn't beg. He ran. The second shot hit a trash can. The third shattered a window. The 4th, 5th, and 6th went wild because the cops were running too, and it's hard to aim when you're moving. The 7th shot hit Bumpy in the leg. He felt it like a sledgehammer to the thigh, hot and sharp, but he didn't stop. He saw a sewer grate ahead, pried it open with bloody fingers, and dropped into the darkness below. Landed in 3 feet of filthy water, heard the cops shouting above, and crawled through that sewer for 6 blocks before he came up in a basement on 135th Street. He survived. Barely. Spent 2 weeks in a back room while a numbers runner named Junie stitched up his leg with sewing thread and whiskey. That was lesson 1. Death doesn't come because you're weak. It comes because you're slow. The second time was worse. 1935. Bumpy was 29, working as muscle for Madame Stephanie St. Clair, the queen of Harlem's numbers racket. Dutch Schultz had sent men to kill her. They cornered Madame St. Clair outside a restaurant on 7th Avenue at noon. 5 men all armed. Bumpy was with her. He saw the guns come out, saw Madame St. Clair freeze, and he moved. Bumpy shoved her to the ground, pulled his own gun, and started shooting. He dropped the first man with a shot to the chest, dropped the second with one to the head. The third man's bullet hit Bumpy in the shoulder, punched clean through, and Bumpy didn't even feel it. He turned and shot the third man in the throat. The 4th and 5th men ran. The whole thing took 3 seconds. Bumpy helped Madame St. Clair to her feet, blood pouring from his shoulder. She looked at him with something close to awe. "You're going to run this city one day," she said. Bumpy just nodded. Lesson 2. In Harlem, half a second is the difference between legend and corpse. But the 47th scar, the one Bumpy never talked about, didn't come from a gun. It came from his mother. Bumpy was 8 years old. South Carolina. His mother had been using opium for 6 months. One night she came home and didn't recognize him. Bumpy was in the kitchen making himself cornbread because there was nothing else to eat. His mother walked in, saw him, and screamed, started yelling about a demon in her house. She grabbed a kitchen knife and lunged at him. Bumpy tried to run, but she was fast, and the knife sliced across his ribs a cut 4 inches long, deep enough to scar. His older sister heard the screaming, ran in, wrestled the knife away. His mother collapsed on the floor, sobbing. Bumpy ran. Spent the night in a barn, bleeding, terrified. And that's when he learned lesson 3. The people who love you the most can still kill you. So when Mayme stood in their apartment, holding a gun, Bumpy didn't get angry. He understood. Because he'd learned a long time ago that love and violence weren't opposites. They were neighbors. The night Bumpy met Mayme, he'd just shot a man named Vincent Malone in the knee. August 14th, 1948, 9:37 in the evening. Vincent Malone ran a crew out of the Bronx remnants of Dutch Schultz's old organization. For the past 3 months, Vincent had been shaking down Harlem businesses demanding protection money. Bumpy Johnson didn't like threats, so he walked into Vincent's warehouse on West 145th Street with 2 of his men, Illinois Gordon and Junie Bird. No announcement. No warning. Vincent and his crew were counting money they'd stolen from Harlem shop owners. "You've been collecting money in Harlem," Bumpy said, his voice calm. "Money that doesn't belong to you." Vincent looked up, smiled, that cocky, stupid smile. "What are you going to do about it, boy?" Bumpy didn't answer. He just pulled his .45 and shot the floor. The bullet hit the concrete 2 inches from Vincent's right foot. Vincent jumped back, startled. Bumpy fired again. 2 inches from the left foot. Again, behind the heel. Again, in front of the toes. 5 shots total, forming a perfect circle around Vincent's feet. A map. A warning. "This is your territory," Bumpy said quietly. "Step outside it, you lose the foot. Step outside it again, you lose the leg. Step outside it a 3rd time, you lose your life." Vincent was shaking now, the cocky smile gone. "You can't just—" Bumpy fired the 6th shot. It went through Vincent's right kneecap, shattered bone, and Vincent screamed, dropped to the floor, clutching his leg, blood pouring between his fingers. His 2 soldiers reached for their guns. Illinois and Junie shot them both. Not to kill. Illinois put a bullet through the first man's hand. Junie put one through the second man's shoulder. Both soldiers dropped their weapons, fell to their knees, screaming. "Harlem's off limits," Bumpy said, looking down at Vincent. "Tell everyone, and if you ever use that word again, next bullet goes in your head." They left Vincent bleeding on the warehouse floor. 3 minutes. That's all it took. But Bumpy knew what he'd just started. Knew Vincent had a younger brother, Michael Malone, who wouldn't let this slide. Knew he'd just lit a fuse that could explode into a war. His hands were shaking when they got back to the car. Not from fear. From adrenaline. From the knowledge that he'd made a choice that could cost him everything. "Take me to Small's Paradise," Bumpy said. Small's Paradise was Harlem's most famous jazz club. Duke Ellington played there. Billie Holiday sang there. It was where Black Harlem came to drink and dance and pretend for a few hours that segregation didn't exist outside those walls. Bumpy walked in at 10:47 in the evening, still wearing the same clothes he'd worn to the warehouse, still smelling like gunpowder. The club was packed. 200 people, maybe more. All of them dressed like they were going to church, drinking expensive whiskey, listening to a band on stage. And then Bumpy heard her. A voice coming from the stage, rich, deep-textured like velvet, singing. Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit. The song about lynchings. About bodies hanging from trees. Bumpy looked up. The woman on stage was young, maybe 24. She wore a simple black dress, no jewelry, just red lipstick that stood out under the stage lights. Her eyes were closed as she sang, her hands gripping the microphone stand, and then the gunshots started outside. Vincent's men. 5 of them. They'd followed Bumpy to Small's Paradise looking for revenge. They opened fire on the street, aiming at Bumpy's car parked out front. The sound of gunfire echoed through the club, loud and sharp. The entire club erupted in chaos. 200 people scrambling for the exit, screaming, knocking over tables, glasses shattering. Everyone ran. Except Mayme. She stood on that stage, eyes still closed, and kept singing. Her voice never wavered, never cracked. She sang about blood on the leaves while people stampeded past her, while bullets shattered windows, while Harlem tore itself apart outside. Bumpy stared at this woman who refused to run, who refused to be afraid. When the song ended, when the gunfire stopped, when Illinois and Junie had chased off Vincent's men, Mayme opened her eyes. She looked directly at Bumpy, smiled slightly, then walked off stage like nothing had happened. Bumpy found her at the bar, calmly drinking a whiskey. "You know why I didn't run," she said before he could speak. Bumpy shook his head. "Because I've been running my whole life," Mayme said. "Running from the Klan, running from poverty, running from men who promised to protect me and then disappeared the second things got dangerous. I'm tired of running." Bumpy sat down next to her. "So what are you going to do instead?" "I don't know yet," Mayme said. She looked at him, her eyes dropping to the blood spatter on his collar. "But I figure if I'm going to stop running, I should probably learn how to fight back." "You want me to teach you?" Anoth Mayme said. "I want you to be honest with me. Everyone else in this club is lying about who they are, what they do, how safe they are. You walked in here with blood on your clothes. You're not lying. You're exactly what you look like." "And what's that?" "Dangerous," Mayme said. "But at least you're honest about it." Bumpy smiled for the first time that night. "I can't protect you." "Good," Mayme said. "Because I don't want protection. I want to learn how to stand still and shoot back." Over the next 3 months, as they fell in love, as Mayme moved into Bumpy's apartment, Bumpy thought maybe he'd finally found someone who understood, someone who saw the violence in his life and didn't flinch. He was right. But he didn't know yet just how strong Mayme really was, or what she'd been running from all those years. Mayme grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina, 1924. She was 12 years old when the Klan burned her neighbor's house. It started with a rumor. The neighbor, a black man named Thomas Reed, had supposedly talked back to a white store owner. In Greensboro in 1924, rumors were enough. The Klan came at midnight, 15 men on horses wearing white hoods carrying torches. They surrounded Thomas Reed's house, doused it in kerosene, and lit it on fire. Mayme watched from her window, watched Thomas Reed run out with his wife and 3 children, watched the Klan circle them, laughing, shouting, watched them beat Thomas Reed unconscious while his family screamed. Mayme's mother grabbed her arm, tried to pull her away from the window. "Don't look, baby. Don't look." But Mayme couldn't look away. She saw Thomas Reed's oldest son, maybe 16, try to fight back. Saw a Klan member pull a gun and shoot the boy in the leg. Saw the boy fall screaming, and something inside Mayme broke. She ran downstairs before her mother could stop her, grabbed a kitchen knife from the drawer, ran outside into the street. "Leave them alone," she screamed. The Klan members turned, saw a 12-year-old black girl in a nightgown holding a kitchen knife, shaking with rage and terror. The leader rode his horse over to her, pulled off his hood. He was young, maybe 30, with cold blue eyes and a smile that made Mayme's skin crawl. "Well, well," he said. "Little girl's got some courage. Let's see if she's got the guts to use that knife." Mayme didn't hesitate. She stabbed the horse, drove the blade into the animal's thigh, and the horse reared back, shrieking, throwing the Klan leader to the ground. The other horses spooked riders, shouting, chaos erupting. In the confusion, Thomas Reed's family ran, disappeared into the woods behind their burning house. The Klan leader stood up, blood on his face from where he'd hit the ground. He looked at Mayme with pure hatred. "I'm going to remember you," he said quietly. "And one day, I'm going to find you, and I'm going to kill you. Slow." Mayme's mother appeared. Grabbed. Mayme dragged her back into their house. They packed everything they owned in 2 suitcases, left Greensboro that night, and never went back. But Mayme never forgot that man's face, never forgot his promise. And 15 years later, in a Harlem apartment in February 1949, that promise came back. The dead man on Mayme's floor wasn't one of Michael Malone's crew. Bumpy confirmed that later after he'd made some calls. The man's name was Robert Tillman. He was from Georgia, and he was the nephew of the Klan leader Mayme had humiliated in 1924. Tillman had been tracking Mayme for 2 years, followed her from North Carolina to New York, learned her routines, her schedule, and he'd discovered her greatest weakness: her daughter. When Bumpy searched Tillman's pockets more thoroughly, he found a notebook. Inside were detailed notes, addresses, schedules, photographs of Mayme leaving rehearsal, entering the apartment, walking to the market. And on the last page, a list of 3 names: Mayme Hatcher, Grace Hatcher, Mayme's mother, and Sarah Hatcher, Mayme's daughter. Next to each name was a date. Grace's date had already passed. Sarah's date was 3 days away. Bumpy showed the notebook to Mayme. "They've already done something to your mother." Mayme's face went white. She ran to the phone, dialed the number for her mother's house in Greensboro. It rang 15 times. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. "We need to go to North Carolina," Mayme whispered. "Right now." "No," Bumpy said. "If Tillman's people are watching your mother's house, they'll be expecting you. You show up, they'll grab you and your daughter both." "Then what do I do?" Mayme's voice rose, desperate. "Just sit here and wait for them to kill my baby." Bumpy was quiet for a long moment. Then he said the words that would change everything. "I'm going to teach you to become someone they're too scared to touch." 72 hours. That's how long Bumpy gave Mayme to transform from a singer into a weapon. They started at 3 in the morning. Bumpy took Mayme to the basement of Small's Paradise, set up bottles on shelves against the far wall, handed Mayme the .38. "Take it apart," he said. Mayme struggled. The pieces were small, the mechanisms complex. She dropped parts, scratched her fingers on sharp metal edges, failed once, twice, 10 times, 20 times. By attempt 30, her hands were bleeding. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Yes, you can," Bumpy said. "Pain is a tool. Remember how this feels. It'll keep you sharp when someone's trying to kill you." Mayme tried again. Failed 47 times. On the 48th attempt at 6 in the morning, with blood dripping from her fingers, she did it. Took the gun apart, put it back together in 14 seconds, blindfolded. Bumpy smiled. "Now you're ready to shoot." They spent the next hours on marksmanship. By the end of the first day, Mayme could hit a bottle from 30 feet away. The second day, Bumpy brought 5 men to a bar in the Bronx. Told Mayme one of them was a real assassin. The others were actors. She had 30 seconds to identify the threat, or the assassin would shoot her with a prop gun. Mayme failed 12 times. "Look at their hands," Bumpy said. "Real killers keep their hands free. They don't fidget. They're always ready." Mayme tried again. Started watching hands instead of faces. Noticed the third man never touched his whiskey. Never relaxed. His hands stayed at his sides, loose but ready. "Him," she said, pointing. The man smiled, pulled out a prop gun. "You just saved your life." The third day was the hardest. Bumpy took Mayme to an empty apartment building in East Harlem at midnight, led her to a room on the 4th floor. Inside was nothing but a chair, a tape recorder, and darkness. "What is this?" Mayme asked. "Your past." Bumpy said. He hit play on the recorder. The sounds that came out were recordings Bumpy had made based on Mayme's descriptions. Horses galloping, men shouting, the crackle of fire. And underneath it all, a voice. "I'm going to find you. I'm going to kill you slow." Mayme's face went white. "No. No, Bumpy, please." Bumpy stepped out of the room and locked the door. Mayme screamed, pounded on the door, kicked it through herself against it. But Bumpy didn't move. Just stood there, listening to her break down. 4 hours later, the screaming stopped. Bumpy heard something else. Singing. Mayme was singing Strange Fruit, her voice hoarse but steady, drowning out the recording, drowning out the past. Bumpy opened the door. Mayme was sitting in the chair, calm tears dried on her face. "You ready?" Bumpy asked. "I was ready 2 hours ago," Mayme said. "I just wanted to make sure you knew I could handle it." But Bumpy's training couldn't prepare Mayme for what arrived 3 days later. February 10th, 1949. 4 in the afternoon. A package was delivered to their apartment. No return address, just Mayme's name written on brown paper. Mayme opened it while Bumpy was out handling business in the Bronx. Inside was a small cardboard box. Inside that box was a doll. Sarah's doll. The one Mayme had bought her daughter for Christmas 2 years ago. A porcelain doll with brown skin and a blue dress. The doll's head had been cut off. Stuffed inside the hollow neck was a piece of paper. "Next time it'll be real." And underneath the doll was a photograph. Sarah playing in the schoolyard in Greensboro. The photo was dated today. Someone had been there, watching. Mayme's hands started shaking. She dropped the box, stumbled backward. She grabbed the phone, dialed her mother's number in North Carolina. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Someone picked up. "Mama," Mayme said, breathing on the other end. Heavy. Male. Then a voice. "Your mama's not home right now, but don't worry. She's safe. For now." Mayme's blood turned to ice. "Where is she? Where's my daughter?" "That depends on you, Mayme. You cooperate, they stay safe. You don't, well." The voice laughed. "Kids are fragile things. Accidents happen. What do you want, We want you to deliver a message to Bumpy Johnson. Tell him to back off. Tell him Michael Malone sends his regards." The line went dead. Mayme stood there, phone in her hand, the world spinning. Michael Malone, Vincent's brother. He'd been planning this for months. Watching. Waiting. Mayme hung up the phone, walked to the bedroom, opened Bumpy's nightstand drawer and took out his .45 automatic. She didn't call Bumpy, because she'd already made her decision. She called her mother's neighbor in Greensboro, a woman named Mrs. Patterson, asked her to check on the house. Mrs. Patterson called back 20 minutes later, voice shaking. "Mayme, baby, your mama's gone. Door was kicked in. Place is torn apart. I called the police, but..." Mayme hung up before Mrs. Patterson could finish. She sat down in the living room, the .45 in her lap, the mutilated doll on the table beside her, and waited. When Bumpy walked in at 11:43 that night, he found Mayme sitting in the dark, the gun in her hands. "Mayme," he said carefully. She looked up at him, and Bumpy saw something in her eyes he'd never seen before. "Murder. You have 48 hours to teach me how to become a killer," Mayme said, her voice eerily calm. "Because I'm going to North Carolina, and I'm going to kill every single person who touched my family." Bumpy looked into her eyes and saw the truth. This wasn't a woman asking for protection anymore. This was a mother who'd just decided to become a monster. And in that moment, Bumpy Johnson realized he'd created something he might not be able to control. Something that might be more dangerous than he'd ever been. Something that would change Harlem forever. The gun didn't lower. Mayme's finger stayed on the trigger, her whole body shaking like she was standing in a winter storm. Bumpy could see the war happening behind her eyes, fear fighting with fury, love fighting with survival. He took one careful step forward. "Mayme," he said quietly. "Put the gun down. Answer the question first." Her voice cracked. "Can you protect me?" Most men would have lied, would have promised bodyguards, safe houses, whatever it took to get the gun pointed away from their chest. Bumpy Johnson had survived 47 attempts on his life by never lying when it mattered most. "I can," he said. The gun wavered. Hope flickered across Mayme's face. "But you'll hate who you become." The hope died. The gun steadied. "What does that mean?" Mayme whispered. Bumpy took another step. He was close enough now to see the dried blood on her hands. The dead man's blood. The blood of a stranger who'd broken into their home with a photograph of her daughter. "To protect you, absolutely," Bumpy said each word careful and deliberate. "I'd have to turn you into a prisoner, lock you in this apartment with 10 guards. No going outside, no singing at the clubs, no living. You'd be safe, but you'd be dead inside." Mayme's eyes filled with tears. "Then what am I supposed to do?" "You have 2 choices." Bumpy stopped moving, let the words hang in the air between them. "First choice, run. I'll kill Michael Malone. I'll burn down everyone who threatened you. You take your daughter and disappear to Chicago, Detroit, anywhere. New name, new life." And the second, fight. Learn to live in this world. Become someone they're too scared to touch. The silence stretched. Outside, a car horn blared. Someone laughed. Harlem kept moving, kept breathing completely, unaware that in this apartment, a woman was deciding whether to become a ghost or a monster. Mayme lowered the gun slowly, set it on the table, walked to the window, and stared out at the street below. "If I run," she said, "they'll find me eventually. Yes, if I stay, I have to become like you." Bumpy didn't flinch. "Yes." She turned to face him. Her eyes were different now, harder. The eyes of someone who'd just killed a man and realized the world didn't stop turning. "Teach me," Mayme said, "but not to survive. Teach me so I can go back to North Carolina and make sure my daughter never has to learn any of this." Bumpy nodded once. "We start tomorrow." "We start now." The apartment's living room became a war room at 3 in the morning. Illinois Gordon arrived first, looking half asleep, until he saw the body still on the floor. Then his eyes went sharp. Johnny Bird came next, followed by 3 other men whose names didn't matter. What mattered was that each of them had survived long enough in Harlem to know how to make people disappear. Bumpy spread a map across the table. Harlem, the Bronx, Brooklyn. Red circles marked 12 locations. "These are Michael Malone's operations," Bumpy said, tapping each circle. "Money houses, gambling dens, weapons caches. We're going to destroy all of them in 3 nights. Illinois leaned forward. "You want to start a war?" "No, I want to end one before it starts." Mayme stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching, learning. Bumpy had told her to observe everything, how men positioned themselves around a table, who spoke first, who stayed quiet, who looked at the map and who looked at the exits. "Night 1, Bumpy continued. "We hit 3 locations: the money house on 145th, the casino in the Bronx, the weapons cache in Brooklyn." "Hit how?" Johnny Bird asked. "Burn them, but don't burn them empty." Bumpy's finger traced a line between the 3 locations. "Leave the safes intact. Shoot the locks off. Don't take a single dollar." The room went quiet. Illinois broke the silence. "You want to send a message?" "I could take your money," Bumpy said as if reciting poetry. "But I don't need it." "Night 2, Johnny asked. Bumpy pulled out a folder. Inside were photographs, 5 men in police uniforms. "These cops are on Michael's payroll. $50 a week each to look the other way." He slid the photos across the table. "We're not bribing them, we're threatening them. Send each one a copy of this photo with a note work for me or go to prison, your choice." Illinois picked up one of the photos, studied it. "FBI would love this." "That's what we tell them. Whether we actually send it to the FB, I depends on whether they're smart enough to switch sides." Mayme spoke for the first time. "What about night 3? Every man in the room turned to look at her. She didn't flinch, just stared back, waiting for an answer. Bumpy smiled slightly. "Night 3, we don't touch Michael at all." "Then who?" Illinois asked. "The Colombo family." Bumpy tapped a location in Red Hook. "They've been supplying Michael with weapons. 200 guns moved through this warehouse every month. We're going to take them." "That's suicide," one of the other men said. "The Colombos will kill us. They won't know it was us." Bumpy pulled out a handwritten note, showed it to the room. "We're going to steal the guns and send them to the Genovese family with this gift from Harlem. Heard you needed these to deal with the Colombos." Understanding spread across the faces in the room like sunrise. "You're starting a war," Illinois said, "between them." "Michael Malone's running out of friends," Bumpy said. "By the time we're done, he'll be hiding from the Colombos, hiding from the Genovese, and hiding from us. 3 enemies, no allies. A man can't fight a war on 3 fronts." "And if this doesn't work?" Johnny Bird asked. Bumpy looked at Mayme. "Then we do it the old way. But I'm tired of the old way. Killing Michael solves one problem. This solves all of them." The men left one by one after midnight. Illinois stayed behind, helped dispose of the body. By the time the sun came up, the apartment looked normal again. Clean floors. No blood. No evidence that anything had happened, except for Mayme sitting at the kitchen table staring at her hands. "You didn't have to stay," Bumpy said. "Yes, I did. I need to see all of it, the planning, the cleanup, everything." He sat down across from her. "Most people never see this part, the part that happens after. I'm not most people anymore." 3 months passed like a storm, fast and violent and impossible to stop once it started. Night 1 went exactly as planned. 3 buildings burned. 3 safes left untouched, locks shot off, money still inside. By morning, every street hustler in New York knew the story. Bumpy Johnson had robbed Michael Malone without taking $1. Night 2 was quieter. 5 police officers received photographs in unmarked envelopes. By the end of the week, all 5 were working for Bumpy. One tried to play both sides. His body was found in the Hudson River 3 days later. Night 3 changed everything. The Colombo family's warehouse burned at 2 in the morning. 200 guns disappeared. By sunrise, they were in a truck heading to Little Italy with a note pinned to the crate. When Vito Genovese opened the crate and read the note, he laughed for 5 minutes straight. 2 weeks later, the Colombos hit a Genovese gambling operation in retaliation. The Genovese hit back. A war started, and Michael Malone, caught in the middle, started running. But Mayme wasn't watching the war between families. She was preparing for her own. Bumpy trained her every night, how to shoot from different distances, how to reload in the dark, how to spot a tail, how to read a room and know who was dangerous and who was just pretending. By July 1950, Mayme could field strip a pistol in 12 seconds, could hit a target from 50 feet with her eyes closed, could walk into a room and identify every exit, every weapon, every threat in under 10 seconds. She wasn't a singer anymore. She was something else, something harder. And on July 7, 1950, she proved it. The Apollo Theater held 2,000 people. Every seat was full. The lights dimmed. The band started playing. And Mayme walked onto that stage wearing a red dress that caught the spotlight like fire. Bumpy sat in the VIP section. Next to him sat Vito Genovese, here for negotiations that had been 2 months in the making. Behind them, Illinois and Johnny Bird watched the 4 exits. Standard security. Nothing unusual. Mayme sang "Strange Fruit." Her voice filled the theater, rich and haunting. The crowd went silent. Even Vito stopped talking, just listened. When the song ended, the applause was deafening. Mayme took a bow, walked off stage, headed to the dressing room backstage. That's when they appeared. 7 men. 3 of them black, 4 of them white, and the white ones were wearing something that made Bumpy's blood go cold, even from 60 feet away. White hoods. Klan. In Harlem. In the middle of the Apollo Theater. The lead one stepped forward, pulling off his hood. His face was scarred, his left leg dragging slightly. He smiled at Mayme like a wolf seeing a rabbit. "Remember me," he said. "I'm the brother of the man whose horse you killed." Mayme froze. Her hand went to her purse, the small .38 revolver inside. You thought we'd forget? The man took another step. 15 years. We searched for you 15 years. Found you singing on a stage like you didn't have blood on your hands. Bumpy was already moving, Illinois and Johnny right behind him. But they were on the far side of the theater, 3 minutes away. Maybe less if they ran. Mayme didn't have 3 minutes. The 7 men spread out surrounding her. 3 pulled guns, 4 pulled knives and clubs. The acoustics of the backstage area were perfect. Any gunshot would echo through the theater, cause a panic, get police involved. Mayme knew all of this in the first 5 seconds. Second 6, she shot the first gunman in the hand. He screamed, dropped his weapon. Seconds 7 and 8, she dropped to the floor, rolled, grabbed the fallen gun. Now she had 2. Seconds 9 through 15, 3 shots. 3 men hit in the legs. They went down, blocking the path forward for the others. Second 16, the .38 clicked empty. Second 17 through 22, more shots from the second gun. 2 men hit in the shoulders. Both dropped their weapons. Only the leader remained standing, the Klansman with the scarred face and the dragging leg. He pulled a knife. Long blade. Hunting knife. Mayme was out of bullets. He charged. She swung the empty gun like a club. Caught him across the face. Broke his nose. Blood sprayed. He didn't stop. Tackled her. They hit the floor hard. The knife came down, aiming for her throat. Mayme remembered Bumpy's words from 3 months ago. When you have nothing else, use your teeth. They're weapons, too. She bit down on his wrist. Bit through skin, through muscle. Tasted blood. He screamed. Dropped the knife. Mayme grabbed it. Stabbed it into his thigh. The exact same spot she'd stabbed the horse 15 years ago in Greensboro. Debt from 15 years ago. She said, her voice completely calm. Now we're even. Illinois and Johnny-Bird burst through the door, guns drawn. Stopped. Stared. 7 men on the ground, blood everywhere. Mayme standing in the middle, dress torn, holding a knife, breathing steady. She didn't shake, didn't cry. Just looked at Illinois and said, "Call a car, take me home." What she didn't know was that Vito Genovese had seen everything. He'd gone looking for the bathroom, walked past the backstage area, watched through the door gap. He walked back to Bumpy, still sitting in the VIP section, sat down, smiled. "Johnson," Vito said, "I'm withdrawing my offer to work together." Bumpy's hand went to his waistband. "Why?" "Because I don't work with anyone weaker than me." Vito gestured toward the backstage. "And your wife just proved she's not weaker than anyone. We're not working together. We're equals now." 2 weeks later, a yacht. Not some restaurant in the Bronx, not some back room in Little Italy. A yacht belonging to Vito Genovese, anchored off Manhattan, away from ears and eyes. 4 people sat at the table. Bumpy, Mayme, Vito, and Carlo Colombo, one of the Colombo family's captains. This was the first time a gangster's wife had been invited to a mob negotiation. Ever. Vito stood, raised his glass. "Gentlemen and lady, we're here to witness history. For the first time, Harlem is being recognized as a 6th family." Carlo Colombo slammed his hand on the table. "A black man can't be family. That's tradition." Vito looked at Bumpy. "Johnson, say something." Bumpy stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, calm, the kind of calm that comes right before violence. "You want to talk about tradition, fine. Let's talk about tradition. Your tradition is killing people who don't pay. My tradition is killing people even if they do. Your tradition is negotiating with threats. My tradition is not negotiating at all. I take what I want. But today I'm sitting here. Not because I'm weak, because I learned something from my wife. Sometimes the strongest person is the one who knows when to shake hands instead of hold guns." Carlo stared at him. Long silence. Then he laughed. "I like you, but I still don't trust you." Mayme spoke. First woman to speak in a mob council. "Mr. Colombo, I have a question. If someone threatened your son, what would you do? I'd kill them. No, you'd teach your son to protect himself, because you know you can't protect him forever. Right, Carlo nodded slowly. That's what my husband did for me, Mayme continued. He didn't protect me. He gave me strength. And now we're offering to do the same for you. Not protect your territory. Give you the strength to expand. Harlem controls uptown. You control downtown. We share information. We don't share enemies. 30 seconds of silence. Then Vito started clapping. What did I tell you? He's equals. The deal was signed that night. Harlem, Genovese, Colombo. 3 families, 1 city. Peace. But peace always has a price. The envelope came 3 days later, hand-delivered to Bumpy by one of Vito's men. Inside an address in Queens, and a gun. A note in Vito's handwriting, a gift from me. Finish this. The address was a warehouse, Michael Malone's last hiding place. Bumpy and Mayme arrived at 2 in the morning. No Illinois, no Johnny Bird, just the 2 of them. Michael was inside counting money. 4 armed men around him. He looked up when Bumpy walked in, unarmed hands visible. Michael laughed. Are you crazy, coming here alone? Not alone, Bumpy said. There's 2 of us. Mayme stepped out of the shadows, holding a shotgun. Michael's smile died. You gonna shoot me a singer? I've shot 7 people in the last 3 months, Mayme said. Her voice had no emotion, just fact. 1 more won't cost me any sleep. Michael signaled his 4 men. They started reaching for their guns. You can shoot me, Bumpy said, his voice carrying across the warehouse. But before I die, I'll snap your boss's neck. You want to die with him? The 4 men looked at each other, slowly lowered their weapons. Michael screamed. Traitors. The oldest gunman shrugged. You pay us $50 a week. Genevieve's family pays $200. We're not betraying you. We're getting promoted. Michael tried to run. Made it 3 steps before Bumpy grabbed him. Dragged him back to the center of the room. Bumpy didn't shoot him. Took the shotgun from Mayme instead. Swung it like a baseball bat. Broke Michael's right leg. Then his left. Michael screamed, collapsed on the concrete floor. Your brother sits in a wheelchair, Bumpy said quietly. Now it's your turn. That's called justice. Mayme knelt down next to Michael, looked into his eyes. My daughter is in North Carolina, she said. If anyone, and I mean anyone, goes near her, I'll come back. And next time, I won't shoot your legs. They left Michael on the warehouse floor, screaming in pain. 3 days later, FBI agents kicked down Bumpy's apartment door at 6 in the morning. But they weren't there for Michael Malone. That charge was too small. They were there for heroin trafficking. Someone had planted evidence. Someone had set him up. The lead agent read the charges while 6 others searched the apartment. Mayme stood in the kitchen, silent, watching. Bumpy looked at her while the agents cuffed his hands. Do you remember the notebook I gave you? He asked. I remember. It's time to use it. The agents led Bumpy out. The door slammed shut, and Mayme stood alone in the apartment that still smelled like his cologne, holding a secret that would either save his empire or destroy it. She walked to the bedroom, pulled out a notebook from under the mattress. Inside were names, numbers, addresses, bank accounts. Every piece of Bumpy's operation written in code only she could understand. Mayme opened the notebook to the first page. It was time to become what she'd been trained to be. Not a singer, not a wife. Something else. The second queen of Harlem. 11 years is a long time to run an empire alone. Year 1, Mayme discovered the betrayal. Illinois Gordon had been feeding information to the FBI. He'd set up the heroin charge that sent Bumpy to Alcatraz. Most people would have killed him. Mayme called him to the apartment instead. You have 2 choices, she said. Die tonight, or work for me. Work for you how? Feed the FBI lies, make them chase ghosts. Illinois became her double agent. For 3 years he fed false information, while Mayme expanded into territories they'd never touched. Year 3, the Colombo family tried to take Harlem. Mayme didn't fight them. She found Carlo Colombo's son, paid off his gambling debts, made him an ally. When the FBI caught Illinois in Year 7, he called begging for help. That's the price of betrayal, Mayme said, hung up. Illinois died in prison 4 years later. No one mourned him. By Year 11, Harlem had tripled its revenue. The FBI had to negotiate with Mayme to track the Italian families. When Bumpy walked out of Alcatraz on March 7, 1963, he got a letter from Vito Genovese. She doesn't need you, but with her, you're the luckiest king in the world. Mayme picked him up at LaGuardia at 6:47 in the evening. She looked different, harder. At the apartment, Bumpy asked, "Are you happy?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I became a crueler version of you. I sacrificed everything. Morals, conscience. My daughter. I haven't seen her in 11 years. I'm not a singer anymore. I'm a killer. I'm sorry. I turned you into a monster. No, you taught me to survive. But I chose to become a monster, and I don't regret it. My daughter is at Harvard now. No one dares touch her. That's the value of power." They ruled Harlem together for 5 more years as equals. July 7, 1968. Wells Restaurant, 7:32 in the evening. Bumpy clutched his chest. Collapsed. Heart attack. Dead before the ambulance arrived. The funeral drew 10,000 people. Mayme didn't cry. His last words whispered while she held his hand. "You know what I'm proudest of, that you survived. In this world, that's the only victory that matters." Mayme lived 41 more years, never remarried, never left Harlem. In 2009, at 94, she lay in a hospital bed, her daughter beside her. A successful lawyer now, 2 children, a life removed from Harlem streets. "Do you regret anything?" her daughter asked. "Yes. You want to know what I regret most? Not shooting people, not running the empire, losing my voice. I didn't sing for 41 years. I traded my voice for power. So why don't you sing now?" Mayme smiled, opened her mouth, started singing Strange Fruit, the same song from the night she met Bumpy. Her voice was weaker now, but still beautiful. She sang about strange fruit hanging from trees, about blood on the leaves. On the last line, her voice stopped. Mayme closed her eyes. The machines went silent. At the funeral, someone asked what her legacy was. An old man who'd known her answered, "Power doesn't free people. It just replaces one cage with another. The first cage is built by others. The second you build yourself. And that's the hardest cage to escape." Mayme Johnson died in that second cage, the one she'd built with her own hands. But she'd survived for 94 years. And in Harlem, survival was the only victory that ever really mattered.